I know 67% is not the same as 75%, but that's you mathifying. Stop it. Well, wait, what would it be with nonsense symbols? A smiley face. What would it be on a percentage system? 89. That means there's no grade called 88. There's no grade called 86 or 84 or 83. What most schools do when they get into this is realize that's splitting hairs. It's suspiciously close to that margin of error stuff we talked about earlier. So what they do is they simply take the highest number on the grade range for the assigned letter grade. So 80 to 89, 70 to 79, 60 to 70. That's why these say 189, 79, 69, 59, and there's no other grade that will be there. Because to choose the percentage, I have to do percentages because of the way my book is set up, my software, but it's not the percent correct out of the total possible. Guys, could you have 50 questions and you get them all right because they're all really superficial, so you demonstrate very little learning? And could I have 5 questions that are deep and complex and you demonstrate way more learning because of the nature of the question? Yeah, it's not the number of items on the test. It's the quality and the consistency and the independent nature of the evidence presented. So now, I can just record whatever I want and be totally in line with standards-based, evidence-based grading, but then also find the symbol that we've arbitrarily designated that I have to use in my school district for that. And now, PowerPoint magic. Everybody looking at a screen somewhere in the room? Yeah. Here it comes. At the end of 3 to 5 years, here's what happens. Here's what you should do. Ready? And whoo! Yeah, you drop the 100-point scale and you never look back. Because once again, the 100-point scale was never meant to report human progress against standard. It's getting in the way. So I'm going to ask you to consider this bridge, but also to help you, this. Would you guys agree this is kind of the general definition of each of these levels used across the United States? Yeah. A 2 out of 4 is a fair, or basic. Would you agree? Yeah. 2 out of 4 is a 50%. That's an F. You don't mathify this. Because once again, I don't know how many times I can say this, these are nonsense placeholders. They're not, you got 2 out of a 4, a 3 out of 4. I can put nonsense symbols here. Ready? What do you mean, Rick? What did I just do on the screen? I'll go back and try that again. Okay, what did I just do on the screen? Okay, how about here? Achoo! You get to decide. It's what the local community will tolerate. Oh, I got at. I'm at grade level. Yay! I'm an at sign. I should, work for Twitter or X or whatever it is. Achoo! Oh, I got an alien head. I hate it when I get an alien head. Some other kid, I got sunshine on a cloudy day. It doesn't matter. I can use green, yellow, red traffic light colors. Those are great. I can totally use smiley faces and sad faces. That could be the whole grade. It's binary, but maybe a flat affect where there's no frown or smile, just flat line. That's 3 levels right there. You don't mathify these. Why do you feel like you have to mathify everything else? This is just some definitions from one school district. So I want you to know that some schools do this. Their entire grading scale, 2 levels, and then a catch-all, not yet. Because they think a C is poor. And they won't settle for that. You're not passing unless you have a B or higher. Whoa. And ladies and gentlemen, I've been in multiple states. I've seen the F range, each of these. There's no pedagogical research that says an A is 90 to 100. I've seen schools where it's 80 to 100 for an A, 60 to 79 for a B, 40 to 59 for a C, 20 to 39 for a D, and 19 down to 0 for an F. Those of you quick with your pattern recognition, you see what I just did there. That's 20 elements, 20 different points in one section to correspond with each of 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 for the grade. It's what the community, the school, will tolerate. That's it, nothing else. And you know what, admissions officers know this totally. You know a whole bunch of kids go to homeschooling or charter schools or independent schools where there are no grades at all, it's just narrative commentary. And they still get into college. So Chicken Little, the sky doesn't fall. Where you have to be very comfortable taking the risk and giving it a try because it yields so much powerful learning in the long run. So this is a quote from me from my back classroom wall. Maybe it might help you. Have a smile. It's amazing how many times I see a teacher's test, and all they're testing is whether or not the kid was an outstanding parrot of what the teacher said. Well, he said what I said in the lesson, so he must have learned it. No, that's not demonstrative of mastery. There's something so much more than just that. So this is a 4th grade curriculum for most 4th grades. Just so you know, this idea of surface area and volume of 3-dimensional solids. Here is a 4th grade team sitting together. Hey guys, what solids are we going to do? Well, let's do like a cube, that's easy. Well, what about a rectangular prism, like a shoebox? It's like a next progression. We go do that too. All right, let's do both of them. What about rectangular pyramid? Get the area of the base plus the area of the 4 triangles around it, add it all up, get the total surface area, drop down the height so you can get the volume. I like it! This is really good. Let's just do that. We'll do rectangular pyramid too. And then somebody says, what about pentagonal prism and pentagonal pyramid? And you say, I'm not sure how to do that myself, so we shouldn't teach it to children. And then somebody says, what about cone, cylinder, and sphere? And you say, all 3 of them involve pi, and my kids are already irrational. I'm doing 3 shows tomorrow. Bring your family and friends. It's the extent of the humor. But let's say we finally come up with 7 3-dimensional solids. And we go, are we just going to draw them on a test with their little dimensions and go, what's the surface area? What's the volume? That's basic. We still have it out to decide what is an A, what is a B, what is a C. What does that mean? We actually go, okay, seriously. If we double the length of one side, what happens to the corresponding volume inside? Does it double? Does it triple? What's that relationship? Oh, Rick, that is so weird. I know, but it's mastery. How about a contraption that has 4 or 5 of these attached together? You're finding enough paint to cover the outside. Would you notice subtract the interface from where they attach to each other from the overall surface area? Oh, I like that. That's critical thinking. I know. We just deliberate. It might take weeks to do this. But now we know, where do we draw the line for proficient, approaching proficient, and basic elements? As whatever you might call those. I think you can't do this. I really do believe this, unless you already have in your mind's eye a very clear idea of what it means to be literate, masterful, or proficient, whatever your top of your level is. So this is mine. You can toss it to the wind. You can use pieces of it. But you need to spend time wordsmithing it. It's worth a faculty meeting or 3. Just sit down and do that as much as you can. To help you out, I have just a few quick slides, and then I'll bring this little segment right here to the end, and we'll go to the next principle. But these are the words or the domains, the attributes that most teachers use to decide what is discernibly different above and below. So if you notice, you'll see accuracy. Are you consistently doing it or only sometimes? And then can you do it independent of all assistance? To what degree? But look down below. Can you respond effectively to novelty and variables introduced? That's cool. As I mentioned, I grew up near California and Santa Cruz, so surfing was a part of my life back then. So understand that when you surf, you are taking in 1,000 different inputs instantly as you read the situation and making subtle or a lot big adjustments and keeping your balance and coordination. Surfing is one of the most intellectual things you do, not just physical. So to me, that was a good metaphor. This is what we would do for true excellence or above and beyond, if you want to do that. And what's sophisticated demonstration? These are just some of the words people use in case you're looking for language. Then, what are some of those mentoring questions you should ask yourself to see if you're really evidentiary? I gave you 5. Then, how do I know what the big power standards are? May I just tell you that Larry Ainsworth is probably the top of his game. He's the most practical guy. He's the one that wrote unpacking standards, unwrapping the common core, all those different things. He's really good at that, about figuring out what is the prioritization. Here are his 4 filters. And I use them all the time to decide what's going to be important and what's going to be like secondary, what's going to be like 3rd level. And then, I promised you this, here it is. These are all the places that I guide people when I mentor them. Hey, what language do you want to use for this standard? And the evidence of the proficiency levels. We go stand on the shoulders of those who come before. Rockingham County, Virginia. We appreciate them letting us use their definition of this evidence. Yeah, you can totally do that. Just cite the source. But we go look at subject associations, online professional learning networks, and so on. I'll do a thing online. Hey, anybody use these standards? How did you guys unwrap them for children? We get it. I can also use generative AI. And I'm going to say, hey, I need these standards but reframed in terms of what a third grader understands, and has this and this and this as I engineer that prompt. And then I get lots and lots of ideas. So you're not left bereft. You can't do this stuff. That takes us to here, the final slide. Does this look familiar? It's a reminder, piece of advice. Does it look familiar? Yeah, I hope so. So now I want you to think about it. Here's the next one. We're going to get into formative summative in just a moment. But I need you to take stock of where you are. So what I'd like for you to do, and again, one of you just say, I'll start. That will really help us a lot. And maybe go clockwise. We'll just do it like that. Clockwise, whoever starts. Oh, the one next to you is going to look at you with evil eyes. Okay, it's okay. But I need you to think about one thing from this morning. You walked in, you had it in your head, and it's shifted at least a little bit or a lot or somewhere in between through the course of today. Now we're about to do some of the most controversial stuff coming up, so that don't worry, we're going to have time for that. You know, it's a little bit of it, as much as we can. But I need you to do this, to be focused, and I'm only going to give you about 4 minutes, maybe 5 if the conversation is going really well, for everybody in the table group to share. So the idea is not so much to point at somebody and say, you start. The idea is one of you, an extrovert who wants to fly free, or an introvert who'd like to stretch, who's willing to say, I'll start. And describe the thing that has shifted for you so far. Ready, set, start. What shifted for you?
See, I guess in your, like, is there something you guys have to that like how or no, you just make up your I know there's a grading system, but like how you make up your I'm gonna add this.
I like
And I think maybe that's my friend was trying to just bring it in a push. I like when you said that. Yeah, I guess I'll throw that part about how showing that you can get them a progress. That's not like a grade. Yeah, and you should be like, oh, there you go. I'll be honest, I'll never open it. My husband is more than I do. And that's what he's saying. And that's why I so like if some parents are like like, you know what I mean? As a parent, I mean, grades are important. In high school level, they're just like, and it changes. Now you're off. It's like, oh yeah, you're not over and they're like, yeah. I guess that's what I about this thing. It's
All right, you have about 30 seconds. 30 And now finish the sentence you're on, and then look this way. Just make up stuff. All right, looking up here. I have about 50 minutes. That's it for the whole rest of the day. And I have a lot to share with you. The next two segments are actually really important. And then after that, I might have to say, it's here if you want to talk further, because we didn't get a chance to do it because we engaged in other topics. But what I'm going to ask you to do is see if anything shifts in this portion, this next 50 minutes, because this can be some of the most dramatic stuff of the entire day. I always save the blood-curdling stuff for the end of the day so you stay awake. At least I'm hoping you stay awake as you do that. So, formative, summative. Oh, that was something you missed. Let's try that again. Ready? Think Telemundo. You're watching football, not football americano, but football, soccer. Ready? And the announcer does this. Goal! Not much longer than that, but that's all I hear I have. Anyway, formative assessment, great name. But call it summative assessment, bad name. Because assessment implies you're going to get feedback and be allowed to adjust things and improve your learning and be assessed and accredited anew. So we call it formative assessment and summative judgment. This is the final declaration of all you are, there is no more. Whoa! Except everything that we do is formative until it's not. Whew, that was very profound, I know. Are you moved like I am? But everything's formative. What? What am I talking about? Yeah, to be very clear, anything that you declare to be summative, like final exam, final paper, final lab, final performance, can totally be redone for full credit. For you not to allow that, think about that. I can give you feedback in the margins of the page, on the rubric at the top, or orally, whatever way you do feedback, screencastify, Flipgrid, Pear Deck, I can do all kinds of feedback, right? And then not let you use it? That's an exercise in what might have been. And frankly, I apologize for the vernacular, but it just pisses everyone off. And that's a Catholic teacher who said that to me one time. Just understand, this is really intense. So, the three reasons why most schools, and I say this to high schools too, and I say it to college professors too, the reasons why you really don't allow final something to be done, usually it's for clerical sanity. Like, we run to the out of runway, there's no more school calendar left. But if there is calendar left, I feel like you have an ethical obligation to give it a go. But when you dig down, they do it because they're uninformed about how the brain learns. They lack a commitment to the kid learning it. They were doing one and done. You should have used your time more wisely. You didn't really care about it. So I'm going to punish you for it, and you're going to be denied learning it and being given credit for what you do learn. Really? That's the best you can come up with as a highly accomplished professional educator dedicated to the advocacy of the children? That's a problem. And then false notions of how you instill self-discipline in children. You didn't use your time wisely, which is a sign of really poor executive function, anxiety, depression, all kinds of things going on there. So you can't just automatically blame the kid. We've already talked about the disposition. That's a problem. So I'm going to ask you to consider, when it comes to formative summative, is it diagnostic? Is it something we do as we're coming towards this learning? Or is it final summative application of all we've learned? There's no more afterwards. That's how you decide it. So some of you were hinting at this earlier today, and I was secretly really proud, and I was going to jump up and down, but I knew this was coming. Check it out. How many of you have ever experienced this as a student? Or you do it yourself to your students? Ready? All labs will count 25% of your grade. Or 35%, or some percent. all writings will count this, all quizzes count this, all tests count this, all online activities, all manipulative activities count this. Does that ever sound familiar? You can't do that ever again if you're into this stuff. What do you mean? Because every time you do an assessment or activity, you have to decide what role does it play. Am I doing this lab for you to learn science, or the science practice, or the principle, or the safety protocol, whatever it was? Or am I doing the lab as a culminating application of all this stuff? So you have to decide what role does it play. Now I know whether or not it's a part of 100% of the summative judgment grade, or it's just counting 0. So you can't universally say, all writings in my class will count 35% because I'm an English teacher. We do writings that are quick writes for you to kind of write your way into an understanding of something. We do writing as practice and drafts and all kinds of things like that. So I would take a writing all the way to graded status once or twice a marking period at the most. Nobody's asking you to do that with every single writing they do. You don't grade formative stuff because it must be a safe place to wrestle and get feedback and revise in light of that. So I give you feedback right and left. But how many of you have ever done a college paper? Think back in the day. College paper, 12 to 15 pages long. You spent a long time on it. And all the professor wrote was B+, very good. Like, did you really read it? I don't think you actually read it. I spent 90 minutes comparing football to that political system. You have nothing to say? Feedback is the motivating part, it's the engaging part. The letter grade inhibits learning and motivation. It actually shuts it down. So I'm going to ask you to consider, are my formative assessments along the way, are they high feedback but low stakes? A safe place to stretch myself, not have to protect the status quo. I'm always a kid who gets it first and right away. Because a lot of kids will just operate like that. They're perfectionists. And they crumble when they don't get that. It does mean that all quizzes in classes, can we just call them what they are? Learning checks, progress checks. So when we do a quiz in my class, whether I teach high school, middle school, elementary, or college, it doesn't matter. I go, hey, we're going to stop right now. We're going to do a learning check. And they know that I'm going to use that information to inform next steps, give feedback, not to impugn them, not to declare you are less than, you are incompetent. And it's going to be woven into you because this can totally change down the road. So quizzes count 0. They're just a status check in one moment in time. And if the kid didn't know it here, but he knows it later, 2 weeks later, on the test where you ask the same questions, that quiz is irrelevant. I now trust the validity of my test. I have all the information I need. By golly, you know this stuff. So this is a controversial slide. Every one of these things shouldn't be graded. I've graded like half of these in my career. I don't do it anymore. But see if there's something up there about what you want to ask me when it comes to grading. Seem okay for right now? These would get tons of feedback. They wouldn't get letter grades that were high stakes held against them at the end of the quarter or the marking period, whatever it is. So, if you do formative assessment and you give feedback and you don't let them operate with that feedback, you're not making it actionable. Frankly, I would rather you just put a grade at the top and stop wasting everybody's time. Think about that. When I grade 185 essays, projects, labs, it takes me 22 hours. When am I supposed to do that in my 45-minute planning period? Especially when it's a humid, hot day and the photocopier keeps jamming and there's a parent on the phone crying. I don't want to hang up on them. And I have committee meetings, all kinds of other stuff going on. What am I supposed to do with my grading? So I want to remind you that a lot of stuff gets feedback, but it doesn't necessarily get graded. And there's some ways with technology we could talk about another time if you like, that really make that a little bit easier to do. But I'm talking about something very specific. Your feedback should be attentive to the craft and the content and specific to the result of you using it. What? Check it out. If you were to give me feedback as a presenter, you might say something like this. Hey Rick, sometimes you talk way too fast. As a result, I'm missing half of what you're saying, and frankly, it's making me frustrated. I wish you would slow down. I'm going to hear that because I want you to hear this stuff, and I'll go, oh, I'm so sorry. I would be glad to slow down. But it's not a blow to my ego. But what if you did this? Hey Rick, as a presenter, like a D- or a D. Well, I'm going to invoke self-preservation. What do cornered animals do? Bite. I'm not going to hear you. I'm going to invoke a 1990s cultural reference. Talk to the hand. I'm going to deflect. I'm going to make excuses. In my mind's eye, I'm going to be thinking, well, you don't know me very well. You're just a poopy head. And I'm going to move on. Yeah, we don't accept it really well. Let's reverse it. What if it was something positive I was saying? You're attentive to my craft. Hey, Rick, you're using real classroom examples. You're occasionally incorporating humor and cultural reference. You're obviously very enthusiastic about it. You're presenting some of the research from time to time. But as a result, at the end of the day, it's helping me stay awake. Plus, then we turn the AC on. So now, you could do it like this. Hey, Rick, as a presenter, you like a B plus or an A. That's judgment. A little judgy dog, channeling Randy. Just, So no, that's going to shut me down. The judgment is not helpful, and it actually keeps me from hearing you and internalizing these things. We want to point to decisions the person made and the outcome of the decisions. The specificity is the thing that honors the other. As we do that, this is something from Leanne Nicholson that you guys have already encountered. I just want you to know that Leanne and I do talk about this, and you should have been set up for this, but these are ways for students and teachers to monitor and provide feedback to the student. So bounce right through it. Does it look familiar? Yep. It should. How will I know I'm achieving the learning target? A lot of kids don't know when they don't know, and they don't know when they do know. So we overtly teach them, how do you monitor your own experience as you're doing that? That's kind of this world we're in. I remind you that it's not feedback, it's feed forward. We've already discussed this. And then, what if I came up to a teacher? I used you guys before, I'll use these guys over here. So Jess, I'm going to use you. Oh, I just didn't want to disturb you and frighten you. So now I come over and I go, Jess, thank you so much for letting me observe your class. I wonder though if this afternoon I could stop by and give you some feedback. I walk away. What is she feeling? Scared. Scared, nervous. What went wrong? Why couldn't you tell me right now? My imagination's going to run wild with all this stuff. And she has to steel herself. She's like, okay, go ahead, give it to me. Give me the feedback. You guys are automatically assuming it's negative. It's something that she has to tolerate, not a welcome thing. Isn't that weird? Think about that. That's just one colleague to another. Think about a teacher doing it with a student and the power play between the two. They're going to crumble too. And so we have to realize is this little shop of horrors. What? Feed me, Seymour, feed me! If you remember that song from Little Shop of Horrors. So this teacher is feeling it. But that means they have a culture in their school that feedback is not a caring, loving act. It is an act of, I need to terrorize you. No, I need to give you some critical feedback to show you where you fell down, where you came up short. No, half of feedback is explaining why things were successful and correct. Some teachers make this mistake, and if you're in the room, I hope you'll go a different way. They only do feedback when something went wrong and it has to be fixed. So I will do feedback like this. Hey, I noticed you use 500s in your vertical increments on your graph. Why'd you use 500s and not thousands or 50s? And I want the child to say, if I use thousands, you wouldn't see the relationship or the ratio proportional influence of these different factors in the graph. And if I use 50s, it would look dramatically too different. 500s is about the right relationship. It really protects it, makes sure it's an accurate understanding. That's great! So I will do feedback even if you totally nailed it. But you, when I give you feedback, have no idea what my opinion is. I don't say right or wrong, good or bad. I don't telegraph. I don't even telegraph at any characteristic. Jim Knight, instructional coaching, he's the guy who kind of taught me this. So I don't say, wow, this is a sorry hot mess. Come see me, I'm calling your parents. Did you even read the directions? See, that would reveal kind of what I thought. I don't say, wow, excellent introduction. I say, I noticed you used 4 out of 5 techniques for introductions that we discussed yesterday. As a result, it made me want to read the rest of your paper, thank you. I don't say A+ intro, because that's a judgment, it's telegraphing an opinion, it shuts down the receipt of feedback. Can kids learn without grades? Yeah, grades can get in the way. Can they learn without feedback? No, they can't. So I am going to take the time, even though we have a short time left, to show you a 6-minute video. It's that good. I show this video to athletic directors. I show it to music educators. I show it to every single discipline in high school, middle school, elementary, and sometimes college. Why am I telling you that? Because it's about a first grader. And the guy, Ron Berger, is only talking to kindergartners, second graders, and fourth graders. What? How could that apply to high school, middle school, college? Also, And when I show it to students, they all go, oh, could we do that too? So it's family friendly. I highly recommend. You can show it to your kids if you'd like. But what he's doing is, Ron Berger is in the story of Austin's butterfly. By the way, has anybody ever seen this? Not a hand goes up? Oh, one. Oh, do you see it with me, Bill and Jude? Yeah, okay, that's good. So I just want to preach, I don't want to preach to the choir. But 4 questions I want you to consider. One is, what does Ron Berger do with his feedback? For example, when a kid is giving feedback about another kid's work, he actually asks follow-up questions to clarify, do you mean like this? Do you mean like this? Paraphrasing back. That's a great technique for anybody to use. I hear you saying this. Is that what you intended? Do you notice I'm asking a question, not telling you what's wrong or right? I'm asking a question to get you to the discovery. That's agency. It's really important. All right, second one. What was made helpful? The kids actually say what they notice about the feedback. What do they say? Listen to that. Third one is there anything here you see that you could do in your discipline? Or if you're a principal, that you could do with your colleagues, your teachers? And the last one, I don't know if you guys remember this, but education comes from educere. And one of the definitions is to draw out. Isn't that interesting? I'm an educator. My job is to draw out of you your potential, your future, your best, your authentic voice. Rather than I'm always trying to fill you up, well, maybe by filling you up, I help you draw out who you really are and your future, your identity, whatever it might be. I think he makes some really good examples of that. I'd like you to look for that. So now when it first starts, the voice is a little softer, then it gets louder. I'll try to adjust the sound up here. Let's watch. I'll call out a few techniques along the way for about 6 minutes. Think about if you want to use it in your class.
What would you guys say to teachers if they're not getting high quality work? Could they learn something from this, and what would you say to them that they could do differently in their classroom?
This is a story called Austin's Butterfly. And it's a true story about a first grade boy, and his name is Austin, and he goes to school, or used to go to school, in a town called Boise, Idaho. And in his class in Boise, Idaho, they were studying butterflies, and he had to do a project. His job in first grade was to draw a butterfly, and this is the butterfly that he picked. Austin had to use this photograph as his model, and he had to draw an accurate scientific drawing of this butterfly. This is called a tiger swallowtail.
I knew it!
Can you tell, Toby, why it's called
Sound is a little
tiger?
off.
Because it kind of has the stripes of the tiger right there.
Good. So, here was Austin's job. He was supposed to do a scientific drawing of that butterfly. But remember, Austin was only in first grade. And you know what he did? He forgot to look like a scientist carefully. He got his paper and he just started to draw the image of a butterfly that he had in his head. And he wasn't looking like a scientist, and so this is what he drew.
Whoa.
It's not bad, and it is a butterfly, but does it look exactly like this?
No.
No, it doesn't yet.
Compare
It doesn't
your
look
effort
exactly
to the
like this
goal.
yet. Luckily, this wasn't a regular school where Austin went. It was an expeditionary learning school, just like Brzunscott School. And so they didn't look at this and say, good, Austin, you're done. They said, Austin, good start. Now we can start giving you critique so you can do a second draft and make it better, and a third draft and make it better.